Hey, what's up? My name is Travis O'Leary. How do I sidechain a kick and bass and snare in 10 minutes? Oh, yeah, the video is actually 20 minutes because I do a little mix down and master at the end. Cheers. This is like my third time making this video, so let's go. We got a kit here, so I'm going to grab the kick. And what we're going to do is use a compressor to allow the transient to only come for a 30-second note. And then we're going to move the bass 1 30-second note late. You know what I mean? So the kick only goes for a 30-second note. And then we delay the bass 30-second note. So I'm going to get that hi-hat going. Now, you want to bring everything up loud without actually clipping. When you bring it up loud to 0 without clipping, then when you turn it down, you know exactly how far down you're actually turning it. Be careful with these samples. They start a little early. So we're going to find the spot where the sound starts. That's a good volume to start at. On the snare, starts a little early. I feel bad for any finger drummers or digital drummers that don't do this, because you're going to sound groovy in a bad way. All right. I'm going to actually skip this first part of the transient and go to the stronger part. After all, it is a kick. All right. So we got to bring it up to 0 before we turn it down. So saturator into a limiter. So how do I know it's going to be a 30-second note? We're going to go search on Google, or actually Bing, BPM to milliseconds calculator. And the website I use is called muted.io. So on my limiter, my compressor limiter, or the clipping limiter, I do 1/8 note for the release. So it limits, and then after an eighth note, it goes back to not limiting. If you look here, 1/8 note is 240 milliseconds, and a 30-second note is 60 milliseconds. So on the kick, we'll do a quarter note. I already have the limiter set up how I like it. The release is 240 milliseconds here. So if I double click, the basic setting is 100 milliseconds. So we're going to do 240 milliseconds. And as you can see here on the favorites, I have a few of them saved already. Then we're going to add a compressor. And the compressor so the basic setting on a compressor is 1 millisecond. So it compresses at the transient. But I do 60 milliseconds, and that's only at a 125 BPM track. So the transient comes through and does not get compressed, but the tail end after a 30-second note gets compressed. So we're going to duplicate that twice. So first I'm making it louder with the drive. I'm going to turn the input gain of the limiter up to 2 decibels so I know that it's actually activating. Then I'll put it back down to 0. So I see at 8 on the drive on the saturator, it is limiting. So now I'll put it back down to 0. And we're going to compare these. So I'm going to turn off the effects on the basic one. And I'm actually going to go up a little bit more. Let's do 10 for the drive. All right, we're going to compare them, just like what they look like. Turn off the compressor on that one. All right. So freeze and flatten. And that's without the saturator. freeze and flatten with the saturator, and then freeze and flatten with the saturator and the compressor. All right, so as you can see, my compressor makes it a lot shorter. Here's a 30-second note right here in the highlighted area. So after the 30-second note is like a quarter of the loudness, and that way we can start the bass here after a 30-second note. So this one is the original kick. This one is the saturated and limited kick. It's quite a bit fatter. If you look there, it's quite a bit fatter. So I have that fatness to it, but then we use the compressor. So I'm going to delete the other ones that I don't need, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the snare. And then we're going to make a bass that plays a 30-second note late. All right. So I already have these pre-saved. So we're going to get that limiter. We're going to get the compressor. And so the limiter is set to 240 milliseconds. So after an eighth note, it stops limiting. The compressor is set to 60 milliseconds on the attack. Yeah, the release should be 480, I think, for a quarter note, but I have it a little bit longer than a quarter note before it stops compressing. That's just how I saved it. It might be wrong, but yeah. So we got about 4 minutes left here. So I'm going to turn the input gain on the limiter up to 2, so we actually know if it's actually limiting. So it's limiting at 4 for the drive. Let's do 7 for the drive. Then we're going to put the input gain back down to 0. And so let's say I want my snare to be -10. Well, I know it's going to be -10 because I brought it up to 0 with the limiter. You know what I mean? So if you bring everything up to 0, then you can like mathematically set up your mix down. Like this is -10, this is -20, this is -30. And then I usually bring it all back up. But so yeah, we're going to freeze and flatten that. So I'll just grab a quarter note here. If I have to, I only have 2 minutes. I might go a little bit extra to show how I do the mix down. We'll see if I feel like it. All right. We're going to group the drums. Set it to -10. Grab the saturator. Grab limiter. And we're going to fatten them up a little bit. All right. So for the sub bass, I'm going to use Sawtooth in Serum. So you can actually hear it like on a phone or laptop speakers. But usually this would be for a sub bass, which would be a sine wave. So we're in G minor. All right, so without the sidechain, and then we're going to do 30-second note, highlight all the notes, go back 2. 2 30-second notes, go back 2, and shift them over 1. So it starts 30-second note late and ends a 30-second note early. And then it's just going to do something stupid like, it's just going to do something like totally dumb like that. So the 10 minutes is over. How embarrassing. The hi-hat and the snare stopped. I'm going to go like that. All right. We're going to mix. I just want to finish this up real quick here. We're going to mix the bass. And we got this little sample here. Saturator on the sample as well. I just use digital clip and hard clip. And that sample is from a sample pack. So the bass and the sample will be 1. That'll be -20. This is just a quick mix down real quick. We're going to saturate them both together. Oh, I used the 140 deep dub setting. And all of these limiters are set to 125 BPM for the release to be 240. So it's an 8th note for the release. Cool. All right, so I got the bass and the synth at -20, and the drums are at -10. Then what I'm gonna do, the very first thing is gonna be a glue compressor on the master. Catch peaks. Now I don't necessarily want the catch peaks glue compressor to be bumping with the rhythm, but I want it to be moving. Now I see it moving just a little bit, but not too much. Not necessarily pumping. So we're gonna grab an EQ 8. I'll show you how I do my EQ. Why not? Let's go a little longer than I planned. So I cut off 19,000 and I cut off 25. Bass at around 150. Then we're gonna have the mids duck down at about 250. Turn down the bass a little bit. Then we're gonna bring up the highs at 6,000. All right. This is what my mastering chain often looks like. I'm gonna make it loud, but don't worry, my main is set to negative 13 dB. Let's see, plugins, Ulean, and I'm gonna turn up the saturator until the Ulean is looking good. So we got a limiter at the end. Let's do one more glue compressor. Catch peaks. And then we're going to do a limiter preset, true peak. Cool. So we're right in that like 7 to 6 negative LUFS. And if you notice, my true peak right here should not go above 0. Now we're pushing it to negative 5 LUFS. It sounds a little extra crunchy because I'm recording and my computer kind of sucks. But yeah, so cool. Thank you. I think I went double the time that I was supposed to. That's kind of the main thing was the bass here. How the bass is a 30-second note late and it ends a 30-second note early. The kick, if you set it to a 30-second note, we're checking it out. After the 30-second note here, it gets so much quieter here, so the bass comes in. Same with the snare. After the 30-second note, it gets so much quieter when the bass hits. All right. Let's turn it up. Let's turn it up. Let's get that snare really isn't coming through. Oh, the kick is too loud. Kick's too loud. Yeah, now you can actually hear one last trick here. When let's see if you can hear the reverb. So since I turn everything down so far, sometimes, just a little bonus here, sometimes I throw a limiter on the return because it's so quiet, you know. So we're gonna get a saturator on the return track because I turn it down negative 20, negative 10 dB, so the returns aren't loud enough. This is a little bonus. Thanks for hanging on here. See how much louder that is with the little saturator and limiter. The limiter is going up negative or plus 20 dB, and we're just gonna send the hi-hat to the delay because it's not really coming through the mix. And I find that using return tracks is a really good way to bring something up in the mix. All right, cool. So that was a bonus. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Travis O'Leary. 20-minute video. Wow. So that's how I do a kick and bass sidechain. That's how I do a mixdown. That's how I master the returns or make something louder. Sometimes I send a mid bass into a return. I have a bonus. Let's do a sine wave. Let's do a sine wave for a bonus. And another bonus, let's do the sawtooth with unison. and put a filter on it and put the drive up. Let's hear it without that synth, because that's just a loop. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. My name is Travis O'Leary. That's how I sidechain a kick and bass with a 30-second note attack on the compressor. Cool. Peace.